never mind the visas. They're only able to do this because they are lying about this truck driver shortage that the American Trucking Association, this corporate lobby group, has been talking about for decades. It's fake. They have a retention problem. They cannot keep people because they will not improve the pay or the material conditions of the job. There are millions of people with CDLs that just aren't working because they got into the meat grinder, that's the trucking industry, and they said, no, thank you. So what the ATA has done is they have convinced every state government and the feds that there's a shortage of truck drivers in America. It's a lie. There has almost never been a shortage of truck drivers in America. Maybe in the 80s after deregulation kicked in for a little while. Maybe right after NAFTA got signed for a year or two while everything started moving north and south over the borders. Outside of those two windows, there's never been a shortage. They just go through people. And what's happened is they've taken this shortage narrative and they're using it to say, hey, we need to immigrate all these people here to drive truck for us, otherwise the supply chain is going to collapse. It's a lie. It's always been a lie. They're liars. If anyone tells you there's a shortage of truck drivers, kick them in the fucking nuts.
You can take it with a grain of salt, chat. As I fact check you, it seems that there's between 8.5, 9, and maybe upwards of 10 million active CDLs in America.
The American Trucking Association, the biggest promulgators of this lie, in their own report about the driver shortage in 2019, in the footnotes, said, we know that there's 10 million people here with CDLs. Like, they're just liars. They're liars.
So they promote a narrative that there's a shortage. They then import new arrivals of questionable skill levels. There's no, it answers one question is to the extent you can get it in 2 to 3, maybe 4 weeks. Nobody's asking for prior certification out of Serbia, Russia, Ukraine, India, Pakistan, whatever. So they come here, barely speak a language, go rush, get a CDL. The process may or may not be corrupt through which they get it. And now they're driving 40,000 pound trucks, treating it like, on the one hand, maybe like the way people drive back home, which is not necessarily the safest way, and barely able to read road signs.
That's where we're at.
The specific case of Harjinder Singh, and it's a hilarious thing. I don't think I say hilarious in the most disgusting way possible. There was a story that there was another Harjinder Singh that said, oh, is this the same Harjinder Singh who took an 18-wheeler over a 6-ton max bridge and crashed it in, I want to say, Arkansas? And it wasn't, because there are so many coming in from certain parts of the world that they literally overlap with names. The Singh is the Smith of India. What was it in terms of the Harjinder Singh being such a common name that you actually could not even identify which one was responsible for which crash based on which trucking company they worked for?
Well, there's so many of them, and there's this problem with CDLs. I'm looking it up here, so I'm going to do a screen share here. Okay. I'm going to pop back over. We're going to do screen share. Continue with screen sharing. Oh, geez. Now it doesn't want to let me do it.
So someone I think is pulling I hope that's a Dumb and Dumber joke. Is it Dumb and Dumber where he meets Seabass in the bathroom?
So my associate, Danielle Schaffen on Twitter, she's really great on this. She is like the ultimate trucking online vigilante for finding out all this information. She's got a tweet here that says, there are 100 plus trucking companies registered to a Harjinder Singh.
Okay, that might be the tweet that I quote tweeted to. What does that mean? 100 plus trucking companies. Can one individual be registered to more than one trucking company?
Well, yeah, this is another problem. So one of the reasons that these carriers are able to get away with this, right? The ones that are cycling in migrants, the ones that are getting in accidents, getting caught speeding, they are eventually caught by the state, right? They get pulled into a weigh station, they get inspected, they get pulled over by the cops. There are official paper trails of these guys being placed out of service, being given fines, and you can track this stuff. What ends up happening is there's these layers of LLCs, what Danielle and Shannon from ATU identify as chameleon carriers. Mm-hmm. They change their name. So you'll have all your trucks registered at this LLC. That LLC is attached to a motor carrier number that's registered with the feds. When you run up your safety points and nobody wants to use you, you take all those trucks, you transfer them to another LLC with a different motor carrier number, but it's all the same people, all the same drivers, and then you just take, you've seen the photos online, and people in trucking will know this. You see these guys with like cardboard and paper signs duct taped onto the sides of their trucks, and it's all different information, but the people, the trucks, and the drivers and the companies they're working for are all the same. It's
Okay,
just
so hold on.
different corporate entities.
You said run up your safety points. Explain what that means.
So you'll get points for violations, right? A driver who gets too many speeding tickets, dangerous driving, hours of service violations, the trucks and trailers get inspected and they keep failing. Your brakes are out of adjustment, your tires are worn out, airlines are wore through, some other issue with your truck. After a while, you build up so many points, which is tracked by the FMCSA, and the brokers and shippers who use truckers can look that up. So when you go and like apply to move a load, you give them your MC number, they go check you, and it says, "Oh, you got too many safety points. Our insurance won't let us give you the load."
And
Well,
so it's as simple as reincorporating, it's shifting everything over to a new clean corporation.
exactly.
There's no value that's really attributed to a newly formed trucking company, although the ones with a clean history might be more reliable.
Well, yeah, but exactly. So what ends up happening is there is actually an aftermarket in these motor carrier numbers.
Shut
Okay.
up for old clean corporations that have been
That's
registered.
right. Now, again, Duffy is on this. The USDOT is canceling the motor carrier registration number thing as of October, and then they all have to be fresh United States DOT numbers. They're changing the system.
This is amazing because, like, I know this type of fraud from corporate law, like where people have shelf companies. They get a company that was incorporated in whatever 15 years ago, and then they can say, "Oh, established in 1988," even though it's been an inactive shelf company. And they do it with the trucking company as well. So they can say, "Oh, we've been incorporated for 20 years, operational for 3 months, but we have a clean record and look at our history."
Exactly. That's exactly what's happening.
Holy shit. Gord, that's okay. All right. Okay. Mind blown number 3 now.
All of these various authorities, right? So this is the problem. There's so many loopholes. State DOTs are supposed to look after this. DMVs are supposed to look after that. FMCSA is supposed to look after this. DOT, and all, not all of them talk to each other. There's not enough enforcement, and then you have problems with states like California, Florida, Illinois, South Carolina, Texas, just handing out CDLs willy-nilly to anybody. And all of these different factors have come together and just turned the trucking industry into mincemeat. And it's almost impossible to chase it all down.
Okay, so a company gets too many safety points. They either shift it over, figure out they just operate through a new company. And so it's conceivable that there are either multiple Harjinder Singhs, just taking that as the most recent example, because of the amount of immigrants coming from specific countries, especially in Canada. It's also conceivable that it's the same Harjit Singh who has now been registered through various trucking companies because the original one had too many issues. They reincorporate, do whatever, and then sign him back on for the new company until he crashes a car. It wasn't, by the way, the same Harjinder Singh because that guy was 35 in 2019. This guy was 28 now, unless someone's lying about their age, which is also still possible.
Well, there's been a number of these bridge collapses too. I wish I had the links here, but there was a bridge collapse in Indiana, another one in Michigan, and it's always these guys named Singh who can't read English. They get lost because they can't read their GPS. They drive through some place, and then their GPS tells them to turn right over a bridge, and the bridge has a little sign that says maximum weight 6 tons. And then you drive over it with a vehicle that weighs 40, and now you're in the drink. And now I think there's still like some kind of there was a lawsuit between the state of Indiana and the state of California because Indiana had one of these bridge collapses from one of these carriers based in Fresno, using a guy that just showed up from India, had no idea what he was doing, collapses this old bridge. They had to get these huge cranes in to dig the guy out, rebuild the bridge. I think by the time they were done, it was some ridiculous amount of money, like $30 million. And the state of Indiana tried to sue California to get that money back.
That is simply wild. Okay, well, now if we can get into the specifics of this Harjinder Singh involved in the fatal Florida crash, I mean, there's news and it's still the early fog of war as to when he got his license, how he got into the country, et cetera, et cetera. We apparently know that he came in via California in 2018. Trump, under the Trump admin, detained, was slated for deportation, made an asylum claim. Apparently that asylum claim was subsequently rejected. There was no deportation for reasons which I don't know, but maybe it's not yet known. Biden comes into power, approves this guy, and we're not sure when he got his CDL. Do you, with any insider information, know when he got his CDL? Was it 2019 or 2021?
Duffy just put out a tweet about this today because they're moving forward with their investigation.
What's the, oh yeah, sorry, Duff. I'm gonna go.
Sean Duffy, Secretary
Yeah.
of Transportation. So it says, here's what we know. Washington State improperly issued the driver a full-term CDL. Asylum seekers or illegal aliens are not allowed to receive this CDL. Number two, New Mexico failed to conduct an English language proficiency test when they pulled this driver over for speeding. Had they done this, the driver would not be on the road. We are also looking into California's issuance of the driver's CDL. So he got one in Washington and then transferred it to California. And somehow California also let this guy keep it despite his lack of work authorization and the fact he was an asylum seeker.
Yeah, let me bring this up here. It's here's what we know. This is the tweet. New Mexico. So Washington State. We don't have dates. I want to know the dates because if it's 2019 versus 2021, someone and I don't know if an asylum seeker can get a CDL. I don't know that they can get an employment.
An employment authorization document.
Yeah, I don't know that they can get that while their asylum claim is pending. And even if they can then use it. So Washington State improperly issued the driver a full-time CDL. Asylum seekers or illegal aliens are not. Well, that answers that question.
That happens a lot. It happens in New York. Danielle was showing me some stuff too, where New York is issuing CDLs to this same group of people that are only here on temporary visas. And the CDL is only supposed to match the time on the visa. And the CDL has got like an extra 2, 3, 4 years on it.
Motherfucker. So he gets pulled over for speeding in New Mexico. Am I on the right tweet? We're reading.
Yep.
There we go.
Yep.
He gets pulled over for speeding in New Mexico. I'd like to know how fast he was going, carrying however many tons he's carrying. They don't do. Okay, so they don't do an English proficiency. Let him go. Then we have to see. Okay, must follow the rules. These failures are despicable. I wonder if they're criminal, like if there are going to be some investigations in terms of the state level criminality.
Well, again, Secretary Duffy announced a few weeks ago that the feds, the US DOT, are in fact investigating the issue of what they call non-domicile CDLs. There's this other weasel word, again, that California is trying to use, and it was seen in this piss fight with Gavin Newsom and Ron DeSantis. There's limited term. It's effectively the same thing.
Yep.
Non-domicile and limited term CDLs are the same thing. Giving CDLs to people who, we're not sure if they're going to stay in this state. We're not sure how long their immigration is going to be, but we're giving them a CDL anyway, which is stupid. They just shouldn't get one.
Now, we had talked about it the last time we spoke where, whether or not this was part of a more sinister plot to cause such chaos that it would facilitate the automation of truck driving and people would be willingly jumping on board for their own safety. I don't know if you've had any more evolution on those thoughts. I mean,
let's back up. There's much bigger picture issues here, right? So we have mass emigration out of India. Some of my friends refer to this as economic terrorism on the part of Prime Minister Modi to just send people out. India received $129 billion in remittances from around the world in 2024. How much of that was from truckers in America and Canada? Who knows? But there's a program in place by India to just send their people everywhere and grab whatever money they can. Okay. And then we have the migrant and refugee crisis, which the Biden administration just fully encouraged, terrible immigration policies. And then we have the NGOs, the nonprofits, the foundations that are trying to help these people. Again, my friend Danielle on Twitter, her Substack, Highway Veritas, she released a report here diving into the role that the NGOs play. There are dozens, she lists dozens and dozens and dozens of programs where these NGOs, foundations, have taken the driver shortage lie and said, oh, we can just help these refugees get jobs in trucking. And they're paying for them to go to truck driving school, paying for them to get licenses, and making contacts with the industry to go and give these people jobs, despite the fact that there's no driver shortage, despite the fact that for 3 years, the United States freight market has been in recession or overcapacity, right? There's a website called FreightWaves, which is like an industry website. It's one of the leading supply chain logistics and trucking websites around. They have a section of their website called layoffs and bankruptcies. They've got writers there whose full-time jobs are documenting the closure of American trucking companies and the laying off of American truck drivers. And it has been full tilt boogie for 3 years. So all these people are coming into the American market while American trucking companies, some of them legacy carriers, a carrier in Florida called Carol Fulmer, 400 trucks, 400 drivers, all of them American, all legal, not playing any of this game with insourced labor, out of business. And that's repeated over and over and over again for the last 3 years. Yet these NGOs and the Biden administration and all these bleeding heart liberals and progressives, oh, there's a driver shortage. Maybe we should just give these jobs to these poor refugees and migrants.
In our locals community, SB farmers asking why would they send money back? I mean, this is they send money back to support their families. I forget what percentage of the American economy is remittances that say illegals or legals or new arrivals send back to Mexico, Philippines, India, wherever.
Oh, it's massive. It's massive.
Okay, so hold on a second. The automation, so call that a conspiracy theory aside right now. For the time being, it's just cheap labor. The trucking companies are incentivized to do it, and safety be damned.
The smaller ones. So I want to add a couple of nuances here, so I don't get in trouble with my trucking friends. Okay. Typically, the large carriers, the mega carriers, the people represented by the American Trucking Association, they don't hire these guys. They don't hire people with questionable legality, questionable work visas, questionable CDLs, because they can't. Many of them already have to self-insure because the locals they hire out of unemployment offices that they hand CDLs to get in massive accidents, cause all kinds of trouble. Like, this is not like something where it's just those immigrants. There's a lot of people getting into the trucking industry in America who have no business in it either. Like, being a bad driver and being ill suited for the trucking industry is domestic and international, right? So these huge companies, the guys with thousands of trucks, typically don't hire these people. However, until very recently, when the winds of political change, started to blow in a certain direction, they supported this. Okay, I'm going to give you an example. I write occasionally for the Blaze, Glenn Beck's old outfit. I wrote an article in March talking about the Biden trucking action plan and the flooding of the trucking industry with insourced labor and all these accidents, because it wasn't just Florida. This has been going on for years. Okay. The day after I published that article, okay, the American Trucking Association comes out on their website, on their blog, and says, there are people claiming that there's too many migrants and there's millions of people stealing American truck drivers' jobs, and that's false. So they didn't name me. They didn't name the article because they're cowards, but they felt the need to say that this was not a problem. Okay. Fast forward a couple months. No, not even, like 6 weeks. Trump comes out with the executive order saying, we are going to reinforce English language proficiency. The next day, the American Trucking Association comes out and says, oh, we want to thank President Trump for taking this common sense safety measure. 6 weeks previous, the cowards at the American Trucking Association, without naming me, accused me of lying about that very same issue. Okay? These people are fucking crooks. All right? And what the ATA is doing is they know that their competitors, the smaller, medium-sized companies, the family-owned companies with 10 trucks, 50 trucks, 5 trucks, that provide really good customer service. They've been owned by 2 or 3 generations of the same family. That's their competition. They know that the people eating their breakfast are all of the in-source labor guys working for like the Russians of the Chicago Volvo Mafia and all of these small carriers that contract to Amazon. And Amazon is implicated in this because Amazon does not have any of their own trucks. When you see a 53-foot blue trailer with a white Amazon smile on it, the truck pulling it is one of these characters that's hiring foreign or in-source labor. 90% of Amazon's loads are getting hauled by people from not here.
Which explains why you can order something at 8 o'clock at night and have it shipped to your door the next morning for virtually nothing. Is this exploitation of mass cheap labor?
Right.
Okay, so I mean, we have the situation with the Harjinder Singh. I mean, I guess I don't want to only be a complainer, but how deep is the problem in Canada before we even get to the solutions?
Oh boy. Canada, it's the same. It just looks different because in the United States, you've got like the states and all these various competing complexes and different levels, and it's from all over the world. It's the Russians, it's the guys from the Balkans, it's Central America, it's the Mexicans, it's everybody. In Canada, the in-sourced labor into trucking has mostly been Indians and Filipinos, okay? And a lot of it's downstream of the temporary foreign worker program and the student visa program, which allows students to work. So there's a bunch of different things happening with the Indian penetration into the Canadian trucking market, right? It's been ongoing. It's probably been ongoing longer than it has been in the United States. It's got more cover of legality because of the temporary foreign worker program and because of Trudeau's immigration policies. In 2019, the Globe and Mail, Canada's biggest national newspaper, did an investigation into what's going on with the Indian trucking community and all of these guys just showing up here. And we come to find out that there's a lot of sort of complexes based in British Columbia and Ontario that bring Indians here, right? They have recruiters in India who say, hey, come to Canada, we'll give you a job. You pay them 20 or 30 grand, you get off the plane in Vancouver. That recruiting agent sends you to the immigration consultant BC, who's also Indian. He sends you to truck driving school, also owned by an Indian. That guy sends you to trucking company owned by his cousin. After 3 weeks, you just got to Canada. You had no idea that you were even going trucking. You're just like, I'm getting a job in Canada.
And now your road to citizenship or whatever is dependent on all of this employment, and you basically have an indentured servant who's working for undermarket value.
100%. And Globe and Mail was on this in 2019. If you don't believe me, you want to call me a racist for talking about this? Fine. Take that up with the Globe and Mail.